Donald Trump appears to be caving. Donald Trump appears to be backing down as the public pressure grows against his despicable regime and the Border Patrol and ICE cold-blooded murders in Minnesota and throughout the rest of the country. Donald Trump just posted a message saying he had a very respectful conversation with Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, and Donald Trump posted this message when hours before he attacked the state of Minnesota and said they were involved in all of this fraud, and now Donald Trump appears to be backing down. Let me read to you the message that Donald Trump posted, and this as the pressure from the American people has reached a fever pitch following the murder.
Trump elevated Tom Homan, sidelined Kristi Noem, and promised a crackdown, then slammed the brakes after his own base rebelled. That's not Twitter drama. That's the Minnesota pivot, live and messy. In the next minutes, we'll lay out how Alex Pretti's death triggered protests, GOP pressure for a transparent investigation, and a hasty White House U-turn. You'll see the beats, the chest thump, the backlash, and the good call with Walz. Spoiler, the optics team grabbed the wheel, and the tough guy act found a wall. How do you go from crackdown mode to we're on the same wavelength in 3 days? Start with a loud entrance and end with a careful whisper. Early week, the White House rolled out the Law and Order playlist. Tom Homan got the spotlight like a returning headliner, ICE got teased like a stadium tour, and the script aimed at Minneapolis was simple. Sweep the streets, brag about criminals in possession, and act like the cameras are handcuffs. Grumpy Trumpy loves theme, and for 2 days the theme was sirens and swagger. They even framed it like a clean, simple mission. Mess, no fuss, lots of footage with jackets and badges. Then the shooting happened. Federal agents killed Alex Pretti during the same window when the feds wanted everyone to see action. DHS voices leaned into a label that made it sound like they had stopped a domestic terror risk, but video from the ground undercut the story. You could see Pretti helping a woman who got hit with pepper spray. No gun waving on camera, no threat pose. None of the stuff the tough talk hinted at. That's not a tiny detail. That's a crack in the whole frame. By nightfall, the mismatch got louder. The official hype looked shaky next to the footage and eyewitness clips bouncing around local feeds. People gathered outside state offices, not just to chant, but to ask the obvious. Where's the proof? The longer the clips circulated, the flatter the early claims sounded. This is where basic rules kick in. After officer-involved shootings, you need a clean, transparent investigation with timelines, evidence logs, and statements that don't jump ahead of the facts. When the government skips that order, public trust nosedives. And in this case, we saw that slide in real time. The reaction wasn't only from the left. Gun rights voices and conservative influencers started asking for receipts, not edgy memes, not Donnie diapers yelling into the wind. Actual facts. They pushed back on the terror framing because it didn't match the available video or the standards they expect when firearms and self-defense rights are involved. The Second Amendment crowd hates sloppy labels. If you tag someone as a terrorist without ironclad evidence, you're stepping on due process and gun culture norms at the same time. That's a red line for people who treat civil liberties like a religion. And here's the political rub. Support for big deportation theater sounds strong in a rally chant, but it turns soft when it collides with gun rights and basic fairness. When the same operation that promises a public safety win ends up with a dead American whose last known act on video is helping a stranger, suburban conservatives, and 2 purists don't cheer. Operatives could feel the polling jitters through their phones. Minneapolis optics, live protests, and that viral clip created a math problem. Stay loud and lose the middle, or de-escalate and risk a base tantrum. While all that churned, Homan's brand took a stress test. He sells tough but fair. That only works if fair shows up on camera. In this case, the cameras weren't friendly. The heat moved from local anger to national headache. The White House needed a choice: double down or cool down. You could almost hear the comms team searching for an exit ramp with the hazards on. Then came the sudden pivot. Trump praised a very good call with Governor Walz and started talking about being on the same wavelength. After days of chest thumping, that sounded like a new script. Less steamroll, more coordination. Less ice musical, more meeting invite. The message shifted from crackdown to we're working together, which is what you say when the show can't go on without a chorus of boos. If that was the halt, the next beat is the blame. Someone has to eat the fallout. The base wasn't buying the early spin, and now the question becomes who gets tossed under the bus and how they explain the U-turn without leaking more support. Why did gun rights conservatives, the usual ride-or-die crowd, clap back? Because the sales pitch didn't match the product. The White House tried to run the tough cop script while the receipts on Alex Pretti didn't line up. When your base carries pocket constitutions, you can't wing it and hope the fog machine covers the gaps. They saw a rush to label, a lot of chest beating, and not a lot of verified evidence. That's when the cheers turn into, hold up. Inside the building, the messaging turned into a blender. Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino pushed the hardline story early and got burned by the video drip. The more clips surfaced, the worse the boasts looked. So Trump yanked the wheel and put Tom Homan out front in Minnesota, calling him tough but fair, which is political code for please don't set another fire. Homan became the face, and the assignment was simple. Look like control, not chaos. Meanwhile, the comm shop tried to scrub the earlier claims without admitting they were scrubbing. That's when the NRA friendly voices and GOP figures stepped up. They weren't defending Grumpy Trumpy's theater. They were asking basic questions. What's the evidence? Where's the chain of custody? Who reviewed the footage? They wanted a prioritized, transparent investigation, not more ice jackets on live TV. In this lane, due process isn't a cute phrase, it's the rule book. Call someone a threat without airtight proof, and you lose the very people who usually carry your water. So let's talk tone. Donnie Diapers tried the siren-heavy routine, but the base said, show the receipts, not the sirens. The late-night roast writes itself. The act was all bark, then the crowd started reading the fine print on the poster. You can't sell Law and Order while skipping the law part. That's not a vibe issue, that's a credibility problem. A BC/AP coverage and intelligencer reporting captured the Republican pushback and the demands for an impartial inquiry. The usual rally-around response didn't show up because the framing kept slipping on the evidence. That wobble matters. When party-aligned outlets and figures shift from applause to, let's see the facts, the automatic unity vanishes. That costs time, and in a news cycle, time is blood loss. The political math got ugly fast. Minneapolis optics were already brittle. Live protests, skeptical voters, and fresh polling jitters about deportation sweeps put the operation on thin ice. Strategists saw two risk pools: suburban conservatives who hate chaos and 2A purists who hate sloppy accusations. You can't spook both and still call it a win. Every new clip pushed operatives toward the same conclusion: quit improvising and produce documentation. Here's why the terror tag boomeranged with civil liberties conservatives. Without airtight evidence, that label screams end run around due process. These voters accept tough enforcement if it's documented and defensible. Skip the steps, and they see government overreach, not safety. That's the line they won't cross, even for the orange turd's favorite narrative. Pressure built. The cost of staying hardline started to outweigh the base thrills. The comms team shopped for an exit ramp, and fast. Then came the soft landing language. Trump cooled it, bragged about a very good call with Governor Walz, and said they were on the same wavelength.